Hello and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Relationships have the power to wound us and the power to heal us. As a clinical psychologist, author, and professor at Northwestern University, I've devoted my life to studying intimate partnerships and family dynamics. On Reimagining Love, I'm here to translate complex clinical topics into tools and takeaways that you can use in your relationships today. If you're ready to develop relational self-awareness and create vibrant and loving relationships with the people who matter most to you, you've come to the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. Well, I am beyond excited to share today's Love Stories episode with you. You are about to meet one of the most important people in my life, my lifelong best friend, Allie. As you'll hear, Allie and I met on the first day of 5th grade, and we have been central figures in each other's lives ever since. In this episode, we share the story of our relationship, and we explore our understanding of what has kept us together for 4 decades. It is our hope that sharing our story with you is going to offer you the opportunity to reflect on friendship and the people who mean the world to you. You know, of all relationships, friendship is the most, at-will arrangement. So it feels vital to explore how relational self-awareness helps us build and nurture friendships that help us feel safe, seen, and secure. I know that my friendship with Allie helps me show up more deeply and fully as a mother, a wife, a therapist, a teacher, etc. And I know that's the power of friendship, to provide a mutual space of nurturing and witnessing as we grow and change. So I hope that hearing the story of Allie and Allie will support and serve you well. Hi, Al.
Hi, Al.
I kind of can't believe that we're doing this. Like, you're here in Chicago with me, and we're sitting here together in a podcast studio, and I'm about to introduce you to the Reimagining Love audience.
Yes, I know. I can't believe it, and I can believe it. And I'm nervous, so.
I got you.
I know you do.
Right. Like, of all the contexts and settings we've been in, we've not ever done something like this before, right? We've done a lot of stuff together over a lot of years, and we've not ever done this.
No.
I love you for being a yes to this, because I know that your yes to this is from love.
Well, of course. Yeah. I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Okay, so you have been one of the most important people in my entire world for 40 years. And our job, my intention for this time together is for us to reflect on that together, like who we've been to each other over 40 years, and to just trust that in this conversation, there are going to just be facets that stand out to people who listen, and that really it's like a way of honoring really like who you've been to me and what we have grown and nurtured over 4 fucking decades.
Oh God, we're that old.
We're that old.
But we're so young.
We're so young inside of our hearts.
I know.
My heart is so young.
I know.
So, okay, let's start by telling the story of Allie and Allie.
Okay, but I got to interject for just a second, because I think I feel so young. And I think even just sitting here, I don't feel 50, which is what I am. But I think because we've had such a long friendship and it began when we were kids, I still feel like every time we get together, we're still like 16.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I think maybe keeps my youth as well.
That's really true.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some me's that didn't know you, but really the vast majority of me has known you and has been with you. And there is not, and I was reflecting on this, there's not a single thing in my life that you don't know about, right? Everything that is like in the inner chambers of me, you know the sum total of all of it.
Yep. So tears already.
So
and you're the one.
What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's 100% true for me. Yeah. And I feel like because of that and because all those experiences that we've shared with one another over time, again, brings us back to when we were so young. So we literally have cataloged, so many profound experiences that we've shared, but also picked apart and reorganized for ourselves to figure out how to move a step forward. But we've been doing it for so long. And we started so young. So every time I'm with you, I just feel like I'm still really young.
Okay. That's why we feel like that.
Yeah, I think that's why. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the story of how we met, and then you just pick right up. So 5th grade, University Liggett School. I had been there. I was a lifer. So I had started at Liggett in kindergarten. And 5th grade, Mrs. Fitzsimons.
Mrs. Fitzsimons, right. I forgot her name. Yeah.
And so in walks this little curly-haired blonde girl, and she's
with a perm.
Mm-hmm. That's right, curly, cause perm.
Yes.
And she walks in, and so you were one of the new kids this year. And so Mrs. Fitzsimons says, Allie Hambright, because at the time I was Allie Hambright. She says, Allie Hambright, you are in charge of whoever the heck it was. I was in charge of one of the new kids, not you.
I don't remember who that was.
And I was I wonder who it would have been.
Yeah, anyway.
I was in charge of her for the day. Like, I was going to get her oriented to the school. And I felt, talk like that's a perfect job for me, right?
Yeah, it is. It's actually the best job ever.
And then you got assigned to somebody else. But at some point that morning, we find each other. And we figure out that we are both Alexandras. And we both go by Allie. And we both spell it A-L-I. And we were both born in July.
Yep.
And so I can
left-handed.
remember. Oh, we were both left-handed.
Yes.
I knew the
both left-handed. Yes.
My memory is that we were almost like defiant, and we approached Mrs. Fitzsimons together. And my memory is we basically told her there had been some kind of like a clerical error, that clearly we were supposed to have been matched with each other, because couldn't she see? This is how it was supposed
right,
to
right. And I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. I don't remember all the specifics. I was probably really nervous that first day. But yeah, absolutely. And it's never changed.
So that's how it started.
Yep.
And we went through middle school, high school. We both head off to University of Michigan together.
I mean, those are some of my strongest memories. I don't know about you. I mean, I don't know, living with you that year. Also, you were falling in love with your husband. So I got to spend really quality time with what became your lifelong partner. So I got to really put him under the microscope and kind of see what was going on for real. And yeah, I think that was the first time we'd ever lived together. So it was like smooth. I don't think we ever fought. I don't even think there was in those times. I mean, Todd would sleep over, we'd have, I don't know. It was just easy. So easy.
Yeah. That's my memory.
Forever.
Also.
It's just been that way.
Well, I think the other thing we should layer in here is that by high school, we would do a thing, like I remember it distinctly. I mean, we would just talk about the minutia of our relational lives.
Yeah.
Really.
Always.
By the time we were in high school, like that was solidly in foundation. Like I can picture myself sitting on the floor of your high school bedroom, talking. And so we were there for each other's first kisses, first, something more than a kiss. Like, and we would just,
how do we do that? Something. What is the technique for this?
We had no Google.
No, we had no Google.
Thank God. That was like a very early foundation of our friendship. Was much more like, I'm sure there are friendships that kind of begin on like a sports team or a shared activity or a hobby. And I think the root of our friendship is conversation.
And the root of it also stems from, I would say, safety and respect. Like I was thinking about that a lot. Like I think you and I have always felt incredibly safe in your presence from 5th grade. Like I just knew that you took me under your wing, and I never felt uncomfortable. I felt like that's the best place to be. And I just never questioned whether or not I was protected or safe. So I think that's a huge thing for me. Yeah. And also just the reliability. I think we're incredibly devoted to one another. So if there was anything that we needed, it was like, okay, phone call away.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm just going to sit here and cry. Yeah. Like I have moments where I'm like gripped by this idea of like, what? Like, I don't know what I would do without you. I mean, that's like, it sounds like it's whatever. It sounds like it's.
And I'm sure everyone out there has friends like this. Right. Yeah. But I think I was thinking about that a lot. Like, what is it about us? And I think, I don't know if friendships talk about safety. I think many friends feel safe. I don't know if it's not even if that's the right word, but I think it's, I just never question my time with you. And I'm always really sure about how it's going to feel, and it has this real layer of trust and safety, which makes us able to talk about damn near anything.
That's right. That's what I was thinking about too. I remember that's one of the things that Todd had to get used to that, right? Todd
too.
Todd had these moments of being like, he will talk about it. Like there would be moments early on, like in college, where you would say something to him that indicated there was, like that, just like, he's like, okay, so what I know about dating Allie is that everything that happens between Allie and me goes to Allie. For me, that's safety, is just knowing that you can hear my stuff and hold my stuff. And then also it means that I really had to choose a partner who wasn't going to say to me,
I feel threatened by it.
Yeah. And that would have really been a no-go.
I know. I think Brian, my husband, probably figured that out pretty soon, but he also was very protective of what I would share. And I remember having an argument with him, like, look, sorry, like if this is threatening to you or this makes you uncomfortable, then we're going to have to have a sort of conversation about that. Or you're going to have to tell me what I can't talk to Allie about, and then I'm going to have to fight you for it. I just think,
Okay, so then we write books within we're like, we've got these kids that are growing up.
Yeah.
And then you started your journey with Heirloom before I started my journey with my first book. So
that was painful.
That was painful and freaking beautiful. And I would love for you to like connect how your psychic gifts and your intuitive work that has always been like a parallel to your nursing work. Like how did that go then into writing Heirloom, which is a book for preteen? What do you say? Preteens? Or
I really don't know. Maybe that's why it doesn't sell any books. I don't know.
It's going to sell in the show. It's in the show notes.
Okay. No, I think actually I just read it. The final product was published in 2016, and I had not touched it or read it until just recently. Maybe I started reading it because I was going to be on here, but maybe I don't think so. I think I finally got the call to open it up and read it again. And I guess even though it's a children's chapter book, I really feel it like it's for adults. But it's for kids too. So I got the idea of writing it in the 90s. I think I was trying to retrieve my child self. And I thought I had a really creative idea, and I figured out what could be done to get her. If I could have had these things in my life when I was younger, would my child self have stayed with me, and could I have grown my child self up with me? And I had these ideas of what those tools would have been. And then I had to write it. And you know me, I am the worst speller. I still don't know where to put a comma. And you gave me the Chutes and Ladders book, or the Chutes, Eats, and Leads when I was writing it. Like I don't read. I only listen to audibles. I don't care to write. I like poetry, but I can't sit down to do much of anything. I mean, I always have to be moving. So the idea to write a book was insane, which is why it took 16 years to write it. So even though we produced books around the same time, I think I had about a 16-year lead. That took me forever to read. In the end, so now as a 50-year-old woman, having reread it, I get more of it. And I wrote it to return to myself and to figure out ways to get myself back to myself. And in writing it, I went through a very deep healing process. And because the part of me that had left was a very, very intuitive, curious, very psychic young girl who, and now I'll probably start crying, who really didn't know what that meant or who to go to or how to have conversations that I was so lit up to have, but nobody got or wanted to have, and no mentorship at a young age. So I think writing it, just gave me an opportunity to take care of that myself. And then it became an offering for any young child, or any child really, as they're growing up, to tools to use to keep from evacuating their body at a young age, to stay home. And while this book is based on a young girl who's very intuitive, I think, don't we all? And when we're young, we are 11 and all of a sudden we see not only ourselves, but the world around us. And we think everyone's looking at us. And so we want to fit in. And so we drop everything we knew about ourselves and we exchange it for whatever it means to feel included. And certainly how I was feeling was not a majority feeling, and my senses were certainly not in the norm. And so I just didn't bring her forward. So so the book definitely is it talks about intuition and gifts, but I think it's for any adult who is looking to bring back their gifts from their childhood and thread them into their adulthood. And I think if kids read it, it's cute and all, but I think, there's just a lot of meaning in there that, Did that answer the question?
Oh my God, so beautifully. It's so fun. But I think similar to like you having not read the book in a while, I haven't heard you talk about your relationship with the book for a while. And so it's like I'm hearing it all. I'm hearing it all again, and I'm hearing it all a bit differently. But that was the point that I wanted to make as you were saying it, is that yes, it's about, for Indigo, the character of the book, her understanding of her psychic gifts, but it really is a really gentle look at how if a kid is reading it, if like an 11-year-old is reading it, it's for them to just find ways to celebrate what is it that makes me home. Uniquely me. Stay here.
Yeah, stay here. Connected. One
of the questions that had come in also was about like, how do we navigate best friendship and marriage? We're both in long-term marriages, and like what's the like interplay there between marriages and best friendship?
Yeah. How would I answer that? Oh God, I don't know. Very different, just incredibly different. I feel like you're sort of from the roots of things, like you're from my childhood. So there's just things that you get about me, and you see things so much differently, I think, about me than even my husband probably does. So I think there's just a history that for me just is invaluable. That's not necessarily there with my husband, even though we've been married for it'll be 23 years. Also, I'm not going to unpack like psychological curiosities or deep relationship threads or my own soul necessarily with him. He's there. Yeah. He's a great listener, but like I said, he's not going to follow me to the end. I will have lost him pretty soon after, not because he doesn't care, but just because he's hard to track with me. And then at the end, there's not feedback. So you and I we'll be like 10 minutes deep, and we still haven't gotten to like the nubbin that we need to be commenting on. And he just wouldn't, it's not in his wheelhouse, but he, just as much as you've helped to shape, help me come into shape and help me be the best version of myself. My husband does the same thing, but just like different angles. It's like one side's getting sanded over here on this side, and the other part of my soul is getting sanded over here. It's like very, very different. Very different.
That's a really good point about, right, Todd. Similarly, Todd is a really good listener, but Todd doesn't delight in the excavation of the soul.
He's like, you and I do. We totally do. I mean, if we're not doing that, what are we doing?
What are we even doing?
How are we doing?
Where are we going?
Right.
Yeah. That's right. So in that way, Todd, you spare Todd.
Right. I figured we're doing them a service.
Really, honestly. I do think it's where sometimes, and I don't know, I don't want to make a sweeping gender statement, but I think sometimes, all right, I'll make a sweeping gender statement. I think if a woman is dissatisfied with her husband, that he won't, go deep or have these like emotional dialogues, perhaps it is that she's projecting or importing a quality of a friendship onto a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and the thing, I think because you and I are in each other's lives, I mean, I don't necessarily look to him for that, but I know I have a resource for that, right? Like an undying resource. So I don't always look to him for that. But yeah, I don't lean on him for those kinds of things.
Like one thing I've thought about in terms of somebody listening to this conversation, if somebody doesn't have their 10-year-old best friend with them in their life, or if that friendship has, had its course, I don't think either of us would say you can't develop a deep, like what would we want to say to somebody who like wants to create more depth in their friendship? And we're saying, you and I are saying, I think that part of our depth is about history, but part of our depth is about quality of conversation, safety, accountability. So it doesn't have to have history, but like what would we want to say in terms of like how if somebody's feeling like I want to deepen a friendship that I'm in with somebody that I'm thinking I could go deeper with, what would we want to offer?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is you have to be fearless in your approach, I think, with that person. I mean, this would be my approach, which is probably why, I don't know if it's the right way, but I guess I would put all the cards on the table, because if they're not going to follow you along and flip all the cards with you, then they probably aren't the person you're going to want to have that kind of relationship with. So, but I think being fearless means you have to know what you want and know why you want it. So I think you have to know yourself well. I think you have to have, if you and I weren't as self-aware, I don't think we would have the depth of our relationship. And if you and I weren't willing to excavate like our entire souls, like I feel like we do that. Like I feel like that creates the depth. So I think you have to be fearless in your request of your friend, but you also have to be fearless in the exploration of yourself. And that's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It may be that somebody could become like, I think like you're saying, like put your own cards on the table. And maybe that friend, maybe she's not the most self-aware critter right now, but as you model vulnerability, as you ask curious questions, like maybe she becomes that with you, right? So maybe don't take a pass on somebody who maybe somebody who could grow with you as long as you're willing to model fearlessness, more courageous conversation, more like, hey, I have something I want to run by you.
Right. Well, I know even just now as an adult woman, I have to, my husband always sometimes says he's not interviewing new friends. He's like, I don't need to interview for more friends. But I guess I'm always, having moved to the Seattle area and having to start my entire life over with 2 young girls as my children. And totally new surroundings. I had to kind of make friends as an adult. And that was daunting to me, but I'm really particular about how I spend my time. And I failed many times when I put all on the table. Not very many people stayed with me. But at the same time, those that did are my friends now from the very beginning. So it's not like it's positive or negative. That person is positive or negative if they stay or if they go. It's just, are we a match? And I know that when I only put a few on the table, I'm not being my most authentic self with them. And I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. And I don't like myself when I'm not. Mm-hmm. So I kind of would have an all or nothing approach, but it isn't an insult to the person.
Yep.
It's no insult to the person. In fact, I'm freeing them from me. If one could look at it that way. But I do. There's things that I'm looking for, but I know myself fairly well.
Yeah.
So I think when you want deep connection, I think you got to start with yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. I think, because you can't, what are you going to, I don't know.
I do think that self-awareness, it's why this podcast isn't for everybody, right? Because first of all, nothing's for everybody.
Right.
And right, self-awareness, like talking about evolution, why is this triggering me? Mm-hmm. What helped me understand this nubbin better than I do right now? That kind of conversation, that kind of connection, that kind of like use of time and space does not appeal to everybody. It's not where everybody lives.
No, it does not. No, yeah.
And thank goodness, because then we wouldn't have, I'm sure there's all kinds of
people in our lives that, we don't always do that with. Interesting, in the book that I just finished, the Heirloom, but in there, Indigo is trying to make a new friend, but it doesn't go so well for her. And it was an interesting exploration for me to watch this character try to be friends with someone who wasn't in line with her. And she had to be really honest with herself. She put herself out there and it didn't go well. And, how do you pivot from that? And I don't know. It was just interesting to read it from my 10-year-old point of view. And that now, as speaking as a woman who's 50, answering this question is kind of interesting. I think our kids know really well. Like our 10-year-old selves, the friends we had when we were really little, they're spot on. They put it on the table. They're not wondering if they should say it. They always just say it, right? Like if you're 6, your friends are your 6-year-old friends. You're not monitoring what you do and what you say. And you're being truly who you are. So this thing we do as adults, I think is a little crazy. I think our kid selves are like the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. And we're all just trying to get back there in some way. Mm-hmm. And what would we do when we were 6? How would we have been getting friends? We'd be fearless.
That's a really interesting idea, to make friends as if you're, right, make friends as if you haven't forgotten
who you truly are. Yeah.
This is like just one thread that I want to put in, which is, we haven't done it for a while, but there have been, 5 or 6 times over the years where I've like hosted you for an event, I teach at Northwestern in this, like, for a long time, I taught in the marriage and family therapy program. It's highly scientific, conceptual kind of rigorous training program. And we've done these events where we, like, remember the one time we went to like the Hillel, like the Jewish Student Center.
Yes.
We had everyone bring
shamanic journey.
Yep.
Yes.
So I've gathered together like therapist colleagues, graduate students, and you have led shamanic journeys.
What have we done?
Like
we talked about intuition with some students at your house.
Talked about intuition. Yeah. We talked about love. Like a kind of a spiritual, like a soul-based take on. We all read Thomas More's Soulmates. Yep. You're such a gifted teacher, and I love it. And you always get really nervous before, and then it's so beautiful. And you make these beautiful experiences, and I love those because it also I think there's a part of me that sometimes feels guilty that I have I really objectively believe that I have the best friend, and so there's times I feel almost guilty, keeping you to myself. And so those events are just times where I feel okay, so everyone should get to have a chance to be near you and near your gifts and near your teaching and near your wisdom. And those are really precious memories for me, those times we've done those events and that you have been are you fucking kidding me? Okay, fine. I'm a yes. And they're so I can flash on different insights that I have gained, the one at the Hillel where Allie had us bring stones, and it was just really, really powerful. I still hold those insights today.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. That's not in my nature. That's 100% sure. And hats off to you for getting me out, because if I had to do it myself, the readings that I do are all from home. I'm very, like I said, I'm very protective of my time, but one might also say, well, maybe I'm just too scared to get out there. But I think when you've asked, it's kind of a combination, I think. Mm-hmm. But every time you've ever asked me to go and I say yes, at the end, I'm not only A, relieved to be done, but B, just holy shit, we just did that, And it's just been you inspired me to get out there, and the end result was always positive. And so I have you 100% to thank for that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I guess I'm always I'm a doubles player though too. Brian was saying this, my husband, he's very much a singles player. So when he does a project, he's very much does it alone. But I definitely like to collaborate, and I like to do this, or where we're doing something together, even though some of those events, maybe I was having to lead it. Just the fact that I knew that you were backing me up gave the wind at my back a little bit to just kind of go. I would much rather do something collaborative than alone. Mm-hmm. So that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Such good memories. Okay. Yeah. And then you just mentioned your intuitive counseling. So can you just talk us through, just because it's so fascinating and so important and so valuable. Can you just give us a sense of what if somebody were to be hey, Allie, will you do an intuitive reading for me or with me? What would just talk us?
Yeah. So if someone wants an intuitive reading, I asked, do you know about my work, or what do you know about me? And oftentimes, I do a lot of work that are referrals from people who've had readings. So I really like that. Mind looking at the website? Because I don't know how to explain to you necessarily what I'm doing. But yeah, a reading is, I'll ask the client to have up to 3 questions, and I spend about 3 hours per reading. 1 hour is going into meditation with the 3 questions from the client, and then just writing down everything I see, hear, and feel and know when I ask those questions. And I have a very, very specific spiritual hygiene and a routine that I go through prior to opening myself up to the forces around me. And I just create a script, and it's pages long, and then we schedule an appointment for 2 hours to talk about that reading, and we do it over the phone. And that's how I've been doing it for years. Mm-hmm. I'd asked you if I could reference Sarah Bareilles.
Yeah.
And Glennon Doyle, but I heard them do a podcast recently. Sarah Bareilles is the singer, songwriter, and she was revealing how recently she had just gotten on antidepressants, and she was also going to begin songwriting. And she was afraid that if she went and wrote songs that nothing would come, or would it come in differently, or how would it arrive, and just the nervousness that there is. And that's how I feel every single time I do a reading.
Really?
Yeah, every single time. And it was listening to them talk made me realize that what are readings, what the hell is really going on here? To this day, every time I sit down to do a reading, I'm pretty damn sure nothing's going to come. And what in the hell am I doing? Because it's literally creating something out of absolute nothing.
Yeah.
But on the complete other side of that, we're surrounded by everything.
Yeah.
So it's how is it? It's already constructed. It's already present. So it's the both and of nothing and everything.
Yeah.
And so when I sit in for a reading, I am so scared, like every single time. And even she says, when she goes to write something, or she's so nervous all the time. Yeah. And that was really interesting to me. And I thought, readings in general, or specifically what I'm doing, and I don't know if every intuitive feels like this. I mean, we're all very original. I think something is literally being created by the connection of myself and a client. And it is on real time. It is in the absolute present moment. Yeah. And there is nothing that arrives that I could have ever known prior. And it is out of nowhere. So it astonishes me. So it's kind of like a song, that Sarah is writing or something. It's like it's being created. It's what we're on planet Earth to do, is create. And I'm creating together with this person, again, collaborating, not on my own, forces unbeknownst to me. I am literally just a scribe writing things down from wherever. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it speaks to A, the gifts that you came into this world with, and then B, the way in which you have really honed them over the years that you, right. So if we were to watch you, we were watching you sitting in your home and writing, and you are, at the same time that your body is sitting in your home, you are deeply open
to this person and all of their matrix, specific to them.
What's just so somebody has a what's an example of a question that somebody might have you ask? If a client would give you, what's a sample of a question a client would give you that you would then take with you into the reading?
Well, before anybody sees me, I hope that they read. I'm not like a psychic, am I going to meet my partner? I think the readings that I am called to do are very deep and soulful, and they get at the utter root. I mean, it's kind of like our friendship, but we're going to smash some things and we're going to uncover some things. And so if you want to know if you're going to get a job in 2 weeks, that wouldn't be a question for me. We're going to try to, break a pattern that's been going on for lineages. That's the work that we're going to do. So I try to make sure people understand that, and that make sure that we're the right fit. But a basic question, one of the best questions, is what do you need to know for your highest good? Because oftentimes we are so we're perseverating on a problem. We're so zoomed in that the bigger picture is what needs to be added to the mix to get a better understanding, or we have to go in a complete different direction. So if someone says, what do I need to know for my highest good? We've just opened up so many more territories to look at versus if they say, something more specific, if that makes any sense. So that's one of my favorite questions. What do you need to know for your highest good? Or what do I need to know about my career path? Something that doesn't cut the legs off before you start running, and I think a lot of times we just think we know what questions to ask, when our higher selves, our wise selves that we don't always listen to, would probably ask a much different question.
Something that I have in my life that I would not have without you in my life I have a set of oracle cards that I love, right? So I'm as comfortable looking for, a research article on Northwestern's database as I am picking up my oracle cards and asking a question. And so I asked, I love that. I have a beautiful deck that we can link in the show notes. And that's the question that I it will be, what do I need to know for my highest good about? And I did it for what do I need to know for my highest good about this conversation that, you and I are going to have.
What did it say?
I did it yesterday. I pulled the goblin, which is about bruised, fragile human ego. Even though I know that I won't get to live the way that you live because I don't have the gifts that you have, and I haven't, and so therefore there's nothing to hone in the way that you've honed, I get to have a little, I give myself permission to have lots of ways of knowing, right? Lots of ways of knowing, lots of ways of feeling support. I oftentimes will, when I sit down with my oracle cards with my question, I will imagine the spirit of my dad and my guides, just sort of imagining the ways in which I'm supported in this life by forces that I can't see. And so it's just a really simple practice in my life that gives me a ton of comfort, and I love it, and I rely on it pretty regularly, but it's something that wouldn't be in my world without our friendship,
Well, I think that's where self-awareness arises, though, too. If we're not opening up to the whisper inside of us, I mean, that's one of the main directives into what is your true north? You're listening in. I mean, and that's what intuition is too, or, are you giving the knowing part of you enough? Have you turned the volume up high enough, to where you know? And so I think sometimes cards get us to ask those questions, and they get us to let go of our mind. We kind of give it over to something bigger, right? So then when we let go of what the brain is telling us, and we open, sounds corny, to the heart, but just the higher self, just something so much bigger, knowing those cards kind of give us the chance to just let go.
Yes.
Let something else in. Let that wiser self in, or whatever.
Versus versus the ego.
Yeah.
Or the part, right? The ego, or the wounded part, or the scared part, or the controlling part.
Yeah. Right. Just, knocks everyone off the deck a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is one of the questions that came in. Somebody wanted to know how we navigate differences in values between us. I don't know that we have anything. To me, I don't know. I think we've talked about we value different ways of spending time. We value, but I don't know that I feel like I have a difference in values. I'm really actually kind of grateful for that. I think there's
not values. We have different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a little bit more, I don't know. How would you say? I think we have different personalities, but we don't have different values.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my dear. Well, so we are, I think we're coming into the home stretch, even though, well, the thing I love is that I was going to say, even though I could talk to you all day, but here's the thing. I am about to talk to you all day. We're going to shut this down and then go and keep on talking.
Yeah, we are.
Let's reflect a bit on, I think one of the things that stands out about friendship is that it is, think of all of our relationships. Friendship is the most like at will arrangement. You know what I mean? Like versus a marriage, versus coworker relationship, versus sibling relationship. Like friendship is completely at will. Like if the foot is not on the accelerator, right? If there's not energy being put in, it will fade. There's nothing keeping it going. So I wonder if we could think about a couple of just offerings about, what stands out about like how do we keep friendship going when we've established that there's somebody who is of value. How do we keep it going?
Right. And do you think is it different now than it used to be? I don't know. Not with social media, but just all the ways we can connect with one another. Are there more richer ways to connect than others?
That's a good question.
I think a lot about that. But to answer your question, I mean, I know I can speak about myself and that I do value like phone calls versus text.
Okay.
Those things. If I can't have a relationship that I could call someone on the phone with, I'm wondering about the value it holds for each of us, and is the gas, I don't know, talking, like literally talking on the phone and not being just a texting relationship.
Oof. That's, I think, a really, really good point. And maybe also, I think that's a really good point for younger people who are listening, because I think, as you were saying, like there are so many channels for connection. Like I think this comes up a lot when I'm teaching at Northwestern, like students who are about to transition out of college. I think there is like a panic of how am I going to keep these friendships going when we're not living on the same block, going to classes together. And I think that's such a good point is we're so used to doing communication on our phone, but knowing something that is intuitive, which is that there are different qualities of connection and of conversation. And so maybe even if you are a young person who did not grow up doing phone calls or valuing phone calls, just trying
there
that.
Is
like,
something,
there's
about,
something
that.
about that.
And I know my own daughters who are, and they're adults now. I mean, to get on the phone is very nerve-wracking for them. So maybe what I'm saying is completely irrelevant. I'm 50. I don't know. But I do know that if I'm finding a relationship that I really want to invest in, feeling called to invest in, I'm calling on the phone, trying to connect on the phone, but I'm also making a dinner date to go out. And I'll be relentless in doing that until I'm not getting the same energy back. And I think one of the things is just kind of being fearless with it. I mean, to not hold part of yourself back just to get a friend, or just to make a connection. Life is short. So for me, sometimes less is more. So a few very, very deep, close friends to me means a lot more to me than a lot of people I could text. Yeah. So those are some of the things that I think about.
I think those are really good. I wonder about also, I think maybe because friendship is so at will, I think there's a whole subset of friendships that end because of a tear, like because of a breach, because of a rift, because of a conflict, because of a missed opportunity for connection. And so maybe one thing I would want to like whisper in somebody's ear is to if there's value there and then there's rift, like you can repair, like practice, like this is like bring relational self-awareness to the friendship and around repair of the friendship, right? Like there are like be willing to.
This is what I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
This is what I maybe, yeah.
Can we talk about what happened? Yeah. Can we talk about it together? So I think maybe because friendship feels so chosen, then maybe the fear is that if something's happened, we can't repair it because you chose me, but now I disappointed you, so I guess we're done. And I wonder if one of the messages needs to be about the value of repair and friendship, because whatever courage you bring to a repair and a friendship, you get that experience. You get the chance to witness yourself being courageous, of saying, hey, I think I hurt your feelings. Can we talk about it? Even if the friendship isn't able to continue, even if there isn't able to be a repair, you still had that experience. Like you get that notch of like you witnessed yourself being brave and making an effort.
As well. You became a model, that gives that other person, like you said, permission to do the same. Yeah. I think I don't know, maybe friendships, I don't know, are they different these days than when we grew up? I don't know. That's a whole other topic. Like, are there a lot more acquaintances? What are friendships like? I don't know if age matters or if when you're older, you value different. I don't know.
Right.
Lots of questions about friendship.
Well, right. Because when we were 24 and doing friendship, we were doing that at that moment in time, right? It was that was still pre smartphones. Like we had a long, we had decades of our friendship before we ever could text each other. So I think it probably is different. But the thing we know, I think we can say that there's still a value of seeing and being seen.
Yeah. And what I was going to say too is I think the thing that is we're also talking about here, when we say that we feel safe with one another, we're saying that because we feel safe, we're willing to be deeply vulnerable. And I think that that's what friendships do, is they allow us to be vulnerable to someone and like show our true selves. And if that person returns and says, I still want to hang out with you, now I've got a friend. So I think that the way that vulnerability plays into reaching out to people, when you're vulnerable, you allow someone else to be vulnerable. And just not being afraid to, again, put everything on the table. If you've got 12 cards versus 2, put all 12 out. Like, yes, you're vulnerable. Someone might not like all 12, but at least you tried. And, so I would just say the vulnerability that's required to create a deep friendship, while it's scary, it's damn well worth it.
That's right. So even though we're saying that friendship is so chosen, the vulnerability becomes the glue, right? That becomes the thing that can be, I think that's a really solid foundation on which to build a friendship, because it keeps you, yes, it's hard to keep a friendship going and it takes energy and effort, but then the vulnerability and the safety is the reward for the effort, right? Is you get to be in this space where you just get to exhale. And I think especially for young people where there is, I think we hear this with our own kids and with my students, for young people, there's so much pressure to have a particular image. Social media has just really affected how, sense of self, and not necessarily in all negative ways, but just it's that much more important that you get to have some spaces where you just can drop the filter, you can drop the mask, you can drop the image, and you can just exhale as if you're 6, as if you're 10. You get to have that feeling again in a friendship when you have put in the effort for it. You get to have these spaces where you're just okay, fine.
And you take the risk. I don't know. I feel like my daughters are afraid to take the risk sometimes. I mean, not always. And I'm not calling out my daughter specifically, but what I hear them say is, I don't, to put myself out there, to reach out or to call somebody. What are we going to say?
Right.
That's the point.
That's the point.
I don't know. You don't, it's okay if you don't know, but you have to stick in there and get past it, go over the threshold and see what happens.
Yeah, pretty universal and incredibly understandable. Conversation's a long time, and conversation is in real time, right? You can't, you can't look at it, you can't take it, you can't, with a text, right? I can type up a text and show it to you before I hit send, or I can type a post, but conversation is in real time, whether it's on the phone or face to face, it's in real time. And so it is really just that the nature of it in and of itself is vulnerable, because you can't second guess or analyze it before you say it. You just have to be, it's what's a first date also is also really hard, because you're out from behind your screen. Well,
did we do it?
I adore you.
I adore you.
I adore you.
Thank you for getting me out here. I was very nervous to begin, but like always, come on, do this.
Come on. We can do it. Come be on my show.
You're right. We can.
Come be on my show. I'm so glad that we did it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for pushing me to do this. I appreciate it. You didn't push me. I was all the way in, but Would I have been here without you? No, never. Would I have flown to Chicago today? No, I wouldn't have without you. So thank you.
Thank you, Allie, for coming to Chicago so that we could be together for this conversation. I'm so proud of what we have built over the years, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share our love story on Reimagining Love. And to you, Reimagining Love listener, I hope this conversation offered you insights into how friendships can support and bolster intimate relationships. I hope this conversation gave you the opportunity to reflect also on the role of friendship in your own life. So, until next time, be well. Thank you for listening to our show. Our producer is Elizabeth Vogt. Our editors are Mary Chan and Danelle Cloutier of Organized Sound Productions. Our theme music was composed by Slade Warnkin. Reimagining Love is executive produced by me, Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Do you have a relationship question that you want to have answered on the show? Follow the link in the show notes of this episode to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. I can't wait to hear